Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. Today we're going to create this really cute sort of curve leaf flower pattern in Adobe Illustrator. You're going to start with a document. Mine's 1000 pixels by 1000 pixels. Yours can be any size you like. I'm going to the rectangle tool. I'm going to hold the shift key as I just drag out a square. I'm going to rotate this. I'm just positioning myself outside one of the corners, holding the shift key because I want to rotate it around to this sort of angle. I'm going to the direct selection tool and I'm going to select over these two anchor points here, not these two. We'll go to the scale tool and then just click and drag inwards, and that allows us to create this as a sort of diamond shape. I'll click away from the shape. You can see that the bounding box is not square, it's not sort of in a vertical and horizontal direction. So with the object selected, we'll choose Object, Transform, and then Reset Bounding Box. The next thing we have to do is to round these corners. So the first thing we're going to do is to select these two corners here, and up here on the toolbar we're just going to convert selected anchor points to smooth, and that's going to smooth these out. We're not going to get such a good result with these two, so let's see what we're going to do there. We'll choose View and then go down to Rulers, and we're going to show our rulers, and all we're concerned about is being able to place a couple of ruler lines side by side. So let's drag from this ruler, and I'm just going to place one where I can see it's sort of roughly at 200 on my screen. It doesn't matter where you put it, but you just want to space them out something like this. So I'm thinking about that sort of distance will be good. We're just going to use them as a guide for this particular angle and this particular angle. So next we're going to select just these two guides, and we're going to Object and then Group. With the guides grouped together, then we can center everything, and that's going to place this shape inside this set of guides. So we're just going here to Horizontal Align Center. In a minute, all's going to become apparent as to what we're doing here. So let's go to the direct selection tool. Let's click on this anchor point alone, and let's click here on Convert Selected Anchor Point to Smooth. You can see that it's not looking very good, but if I hold the shift key, I can now bring each of these handles in to line up with the guide. And because we centered the shape inside the guide, then this curve and this curve are going to be pretty near identical. It's just a simple way of lining everything up. It's also a really good indication that you can group guides together so that they will travel together and you can use them for lining things up. Now, I don't need my guides any longer. They were only there to get a nice angle at the top here. So in the Layers palette, I'm just opening up the Layers palette. Here are my guides. In this group here, I'm just going to trash them. So now I've got my shape. It has a stroke around it and it has a fill. So I'm just going to increase the stroke a little bit. We might just change the colors here. So for the stroke, I'm going to make it a sort of blue color, and for the fill, I'm going to make it a really light blue color. So something like this. Now I want to rotate this around, but I don't want the shapes when we rotate them to all be lined up. So I need a point to assist in my rotation. So I'm going to the pen tool. I'm just going to click once just below the bottom of this shape. I'm going to press the Escape key. I have this point, this little anchor point selected, so I'm going to turn off its fill and I'm going to turn off its stroke. It's got no fill, no stroke, but it is a something. So now we're going to select over our leaf sort of shape and this no fill, no stroke point, and we're going to line them both up again. So that's fine, that's all done, and then we're going to group them. You have to group them at this point or the next step's not going to work. Effect, Distort and Transform, and then Transform. We need one original and 5 copies, so I'm just going to type 5 in here, and the rotation is going to be 60 degrees so that they rotate around the central point, and we need to rotate them around the anchor point down here, so let's just click on this. Now they're way too far apart, but that's not a solution that we can do in the Transform Effect dialog. We just have to accept what we've got right now and then go and fix the spacing. The spacing is going to be maintained by the distance between our anchor point here and our leaf shape. So let's just go and pick up our anchor point. So I've got it selected. I'm just going to drag it up. And I'm going to shrink down the space between the anchor point and this leaf so that the space between each of these shapes is a lot smaller. That's all we need to do there. Now, if you want everything to be smaller again, just hold the Shift key as you scale this in. We need to expand this, so we'll choose Object, Expand Appearance. In the Layers palette, you'll see that you've got a group with the flower, and each of these shapes is also a group. We're going to leave them like this. We're going to make our pattern now, but before we do, we have to rotate this shape around. So with the shape selected, we'll choose again Object, Transform and Rotate. And this time we're just going to rotate it 30 degrees. So we just want these shapes at the top to be this sort of upward pointing V, not a point. So we'll just click OK. This is the base shape for our pattern, but it will help us to make the pattern more easily if we get rid of part of it. So let me just take a duplicate out of the way in case I need that again. I don't want to have to recreate it. So now I want to get rid of these leaves here. It's going to help me if I go to the Layers palette and just delete them from there. So let's work out which flower is which. Well, this flower over here is that one, so I'm just going to lock it down and hide it. I don't want to see it right now. Let's open this up and let's see if we can locate these 3 leaves. Okay, so this is going to be one of them. I'm just going to select that and delete it. So I'm just going to press the delete key. This is another one, and this is another one. So I just want these 3 visible. Everything else can be deleted. Now select over this shape and select Object, Pattern, Make. I'm going to hide my artboard with View and then Hide Artboards. Just going to locate my pattern options dialog, close everything else down. I want to see things a little more clearly, so I'm just going to zoom out, which we can do in the pattern dialog. We're going to start working on the width and the height and the type of tile that we have. What I want is a brick by row, and what I'm going to do is move this shape into position here. So we're going to decrease the height. To do it faster, just click in the height box and start pressing the down arrow key, but add the Shift key to it as you do that, and you'll just move faster. Now we can see that things are getting in position, but they're not quite right now. So I'm going to increase the width to pull things apart. And what I'm looking for is a balance in the spacing around this point here. And when I've got it, I'm pretty good. Let's just see what a 9 by 9 looks like. And again, roll back out so we can see what our pattern looks like. My pattern width is 270 by 230. Yours is going to be different, but there's going to be some value in here. Ideally, it should be a round number, and if it's an even number, that's even better. We're going to put a background on this pattern, so go to the rectangle tool, click once in your document, and make the width and height the same as the width and height of your pattern piece. Now mine's filled with this blue color, so I want to change the color because I want to be able to see what's going on here. Doesn't matter what color I use, but just use a color right now. I'm going to the selection tool, click on it, and then I'm just going to drag this rectangle to some position where nothing is getting cut off. There is no right or wrong place for it to be, except it just has to be placed where you're not seeing anything of the pattern is being cut off. Everything looks really fine to me, so I'll click Done. Let's redisplay the artboards. Control 0 to just square things up on the artboard. I'm just going to grab this shape, put it out of the way. I'm going to add in a rectangle that is the size of my artboard, which in my case is 1000 pixels by 1000 pixels. I'll square that shape up on the artboard. I'll make sure that the fill is selected. I'll come across here to swatches and click on my pattern swatch. Let's scale it with Object, Transform and then Scale. Now we want to uniform scale it, and we don't want to transform the object, the containing box. We just want to transform the pattern. I'm going to bring this down to about 50%. And click OK. At this point we can recolor our shape. So with the rectangle filled with the pattern selected, I'm going to the Recolor Artwork dialog. Let's go to Advanced Options. I want to bring this green and this blue closer together, so I'm going to the Edit option. I'm going to make sure that I unlink these harmony colors, and I'm just going to bring this color here over towards this color. So I'm sort of flattening the difference between those two colors down to almost nothing. Now I'd also like this to be white, so I'm just going to adjust it. It's probably going to be easier for me to adjust it using RGB, because then I can just wind up these colors to 255, 255, 255, and I've got white. Can make any other changes that I want here to bring these colors closer together still, and click OK. So we've now got two versions of this pattern. We've got one where there's a distinct difference between the fill on the flower and the background. We've got one where there is less of a difference. If you want no difference at all, let's go back into the Recolor Artwork dialog, Advanced Options, and here what we're going to do is drag this color onto this one. And that's going to make them the same base color, but they're going to be tinted. If we don't want them to be tinted, we'll just click here and choose Exact, and then click OK. And that gives us the white leaves on what looks like a solid color background. It's not a solid color background. It's just that the fill for the leaves and what we use for a background are the same color. So again, different versions of this pattern, very easily created once you've got your first version done. If you like carefully researched content like this, clearly presented in a step-by-step format so that you can get great results, then you'll love my Skillshare content. I'm a Skillshare top teacher. I have hundreds of short courses on Skillshare that you can access, along with thousands of other great courses, all for the price of a single subscription. If you're interested, there's a Skillshare coupon for you in the description below to use to sign up. Using this coupon benefits me as a creator, and it helps me continue to make free content available here for you also on YouTube. Thank you for joining me for this video tutorial. On the screen now, you'll see a video that I've hand-picked for you. If you enjoyed the video you've just watched, I know that you're going to really enjoy the one I've picked for you to watch next.